Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Audience Engagement Strategy in a Newsroom with our special guest, Christina Schoellkopf. Christina Schoellkopf has worked at the Los Angeles Times for over 3 years. She currently serves as the Assistant Editor, Entertainment Audience Engagement, a National Art and Entertainment Journalism Award and SoCal Journalism Award winner. She previously served as social media manager at The Hollywood Reporter after graduating summa cum laude from the University of Southern California. In her spare time, Schoellkopf enjoys volunteering as a tutor for children experiencing homelessness through School on Wheels, as well as reading, creative writing, and making pasta from scratch. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Christina Schoellkopf.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for attending today. I'll just kick it off. And I thought that I was going to be able to see you guys. I was hoping to have a little Q&A after. Grant, here's a dumb question, but are we going to be able to have a Q&A after, or how can I see everyone?
Yes, we will. We'll be able to
Okay.
have a Q&A, folks, so wait until we get towards that end, and you can submit your questions in the Q&A, or we can unmute you and you can ask live.
Okay, cool. Because I meant to make this interactive, so I'm glad that we can still have some answers coming in. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Christina Schoellkopf, as Grant said, and I will launch into this presentation. I hope to answer questions today that you may have about audience engagement, and which kind of brings me to the first thing is I wanted to kind of ask you guys if you've ever even heard of audience engagement, if you even knew an audience team was a position in a newsroom. If we can use the chat, feel free to put in the chat whether you've even heard of that. When I was in high school, I had no idea this kind of job existed. And even when I was in college, I had no idea this kind of job existed. It wasn't until I actually made it into a newsroom where I could see what this was. And I'm really thankful that my career has taken me here so far. So a little about me, this is where I started in high school. I started in journalism at age 14. I'm 27 right now, so a little bit of kind of a while ago. And I was at Palos Verdes High School's Live from 205 program and just really fell in love with journalism. I was really honored to be selected as Student of the Year my senior year from STN, and I just really enjoyed attending STN, breakout sessions. So it's really cool to be here today leading one. So I went to USC Annenberg's journalism school, and since then I went to the Hollywood Reporter. I worked there for 3 years, and I've been with the LA Times for over 3 years so far. This is a picture of me at the Oscars. This was a huge goal of mine to make it there, and I felt really lucky to be there twice. Okay, so think for a second. What do you think when you hear the phrase audience engagement or audience strategy? Is it a big hole? What does that mean? Here is how I would recommend looking at it. Using audience data to guide editorial strategy. So if you're interested in looking and learning more about audience or doing that kind of work, it really all goes back to data and understanding data so that we can really understand our audience, our readers, our viewers, whatever that might mean for the type of journalism you're doing. And I always ask at the end of the day, what's the goal? What's the goal, right? Like, why are we studying this data? So what are we trying to achieve here? Are we trying to achieve more subscriptions, more readers, more views? That's really important. So you're kind of being a little more focused about what kind of data you're looking for and how you analyze it. Okay, so I wanted to take a moment to say, why would you pursue a career in audience engagement? Because I feel like maybe you'll pay attention a little bit more. So first of all, I think it's really interesting and important. Every journalist should understand their audience, whether you want to be a reporter or an editor, who knows what. It's just crucial to kind of get a sense of who you're doing your work for. I also consider it an excellent foundation for other people in the newsroom, even if you want to be editor-in-chief someday or something like that. When you think about it, how could you have a leader in a newsroom who doesn't take the time to understand their audience, right? I also wanted to mention that there's great job security. You may have heard about some big layoffs that happened this summer with COVID-19. And I certainly paid close attention because it's important to be aware of what's happening in your industry. And I noticed a lot of reporter teams or sometimes people on a marketing team or someone on the business side, and I really didn't notice a lot of layoffs happening for audience team members. And I think that's because a lot of places understand that it's really the bedrock of the news team, to get your news out there, to understand the audience and promote it effectively. I would also argue that these kind of jobs are in high demand. When you think about it, staff reporters are kind of a dime a dozen. A lot of people want to make it as a staff reporter, and that can be really hard to break through. Not that it's impossible, but just a little bit challenging. So I have found that it's a little more rare for someone to have several years of experience in audience work. So, and happy in the Q&As to talk about salaries, because that stuff's really important to educate yourself, and how to negotiate a salary. And I have found that basically with audience work, because there's high demand, you have a little more power to negotiate. I also think that there are really transferable skills. I'm an entertainment journalist. Let's say one day I woke up and I said, I want to work for a movie studio. Well, I am sure that they have people or teams of people who are dedicated to understanding their audience so they can deliver the best content for them. And finally, work-life balance. I know this might be crazy because you guys are in high school, but I may want to be a mom within 5 years. And it's good to, at least for me, I've kind of realized that I don't know if I want a kind of job where have no idea what my hours are going to be for the day. I kind of want a little sense of stability. So it's been a lot of fun just to be able to have this day-to-day job, but kind of on my own time, do some reporting things. I also realized I think I skipped a slide. Here we are, back to the stuff I do on the side. So what's kind of been fun is my day-to-day, I sign on, I sign off, I'm doing audience work. But I have really kind of advocated for myself to do some things on the side that just make my heart happy, and I have a bunch of fun and kind of makes the rest of it feel worth it. So here's some of what I do and what I call kind of like my side hustle. I've done a lot of red carpet reporting. And on the left, I'm interviewing Tom Hanks, one of my favorite actors, which was incredible. Interviewing Brad Pitt on the Golden Globes red carpet. Interviewing George Clooney at his AFI Lifetime Achievement Award. My first red carpet report was actually for Star Wars, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I basically died at that red carpet premiere and did not want to leave. And Eddie Murphy as well. And then sometimes I'll help out the books team and I'll read a book in advance before it's been released, and I'll write some takeaways or I'll interview the author, which to me is just super fun because I'm a book nerd. I'm actually also pursuing my master's in creative writing through Harvard's creative writing program. And so just being able to read a book before it's out and write about it is really cool. So I had fun doing that for Mariah Carey's memoir. Okay, so what are newsroom audiences? What the heck does that mean? Here is a look at just kind of some examples here of the ways that I would recommend kind of thinking about it. You may have heard of this term. I don't know if you have, but there's something called on platform and off platform. On platform kind of referring to what the newsroom kind of manages those properties, and off platform, it's almost like things a little more out of their control, right? Like Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg's control. So it's like you can use those platforms, but it's not like it's in your own ecosystem. So on platform, that could be your audience on a story level. Some newsrooms measure it by user visits or people that come to the story to read it. LA Times is subscription based. So we care about people who convert and want to come back for more LA Times journalism. They want to pay for that subscription. Comments on a story, your goal may be to really engage a dialogue with readers in the comments. Engagement time is an interesting metric just to see how much time are people spending on a story. Unfortunately, you'll see quickly in digital news that not many people spend that much time on a story beyond 30 seconds. So if you can have someone stay there for over 2 minutes, that is a huge signal that that kind of reporting is working and something that you may want to do again. That's kind of brings it to scroll percentage. Unfortunately, in digital news, you'll also learn that not a lot of people scroll to the very end of the story to keep reading. And also, it's good. Another metric that's interesting is paying attention to the location of your readers. So I'll use the example again of Los Angeles Times. We measure readers that are coming from SoCal. And that helps us see, are we serving our local audience? Is our local audience attracted to this journalism? And other things internally, your homepage, just kind of paying attention to data behind that and your internal traffic. Mobile pushes, you may get mobile push alerts on your phone if you're subscribing to certain places. Email breakers, you may also subscribe to some email breakers. Newsletters, and of course, if you're a TV show or broadcast journalism, you pay attention to your viewers. Off platform, just to kind of quickly run through this, Apple News, Flipboard, Pocket. You may subscribe to a newsletter like The Skim or something else. Yahoo News, Microsoft News, and then of course social media, and even audio, the podcast world. So these are all different types of things. There are some jobs in journalism where, for example, I have a colleague who's our off-platform editor for the Los Angeles Times. She manages pitching to Apple News, to Flipboard, to Facebook. It's so that's kind of its own job too. Okay, so I just wanted to kind of glance at some of this stuff just so you guys are familiar that different newsrooms use different dashboards to kind of measure their data. So someday, this is kind of cool stuff to put on your resume under the skills section. If you've had a chance to work with a program like Chartbeat, which can show you real-time data, and Google Analytics can also show you data, or another program called Omniture. I just wanted to brush on those topics because if you have a chance to learn some of those things in an internship or something, those are great to put on the skill set for your resume. But what can you do now? I bet some of you have your own social media accounts, and just to kind of start familiarizing yourself with data and understanding how to use that, how to apply it, how to develop a strategy. Let's say you want to grow your Instagram account. Pay attention to some of your own Instagram data and think about what are the posts that are connecting to your audience more than others. And my big advice, though, is that if you are interning, if your manager doesn't already introduce you to some data metrics, I highly recommend asking them if you would be able to have access to some of their internal dashboards or metrics so you can review and study them. As an intern, oftentimes you're able to pitch story ideas, and this could make you sound really smart if you have an understanding of the stories that are working and you can make more targeted pitches. Sometimes I've had interns come through the LA Times and they ask me, what can I do to kind of stand out a little bit more in my job, process? And I say, please make sure you have data analysis on your resume because I think that's something that's really attractive right now, especially in the digital news space. Okay, headlines. This is actually a huge part of my job, believe it or not, is writing and editing headlines. Headlines are kind of like the front cover of a book, right? It's like the first thing that people see. If they're not attracted to it, if they don't have a curiosity gap with it, they're probably not going to read more. So before anything else, one way to look at it is how strong is my mobile push going to be, or how strong is my Facebook post going to be if that headline is not very compelling? It's not going to be very good. How can I connect with my email alert audience if that headline kind of falls flat? So, and these things always change because the internet's always changing. So just keep in mind, this is not like hard and fast forever in the world of digital news, but there's often two headlines. And I'm actually going to exit this presentation and show you an example of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to use the example of Britney Spears because it's Britney, and I feel like everyone's talking about Britney right now. So here's an example of a main headline. So the Free Britney movement is bigger than Spears. A new doc shows why it's so powerful. So maybe you feel a little bit interested or intrigued about learning, why is this documentary so powerful if I've been a little bit under a rock and in the entertainment world and I don't know anything about it? And this is what I'm talking about when I say an SEO headline. So it's what you would see when you are searching. SEO stands for search engine optimization. So when you're writing a story in digital news, you actually write two headlines in most cases. So This is what you'd write as an SEO headline. It's keyword focused, a little more robotic. FX Britney Spears documentary explores Free Britney, and the word you don't see is movement. Now, an SEO headline is typically 60 characters or less. That's considered best practice. And then a main headline is 85 or less. And yeah, I spend a lot of my time kind of playing a puzzle piece. And I wanted to show you guys this character count tool. So I'm just going to put test for now. So I would actually recommend on your computers right now going to charactercounttool.com, because I'm going to actually ask you guys to practice with me. This is really helpful because I can say something like STN is going great. And this tells me I've used up 19 of my characters. I use this all day long in writing headlines, editing headlines, because you can quickly see that to have 60 characters, it's really tough to fit it all in. Okay. So your main headline is really conversational. It can even be 2 sentences. And then your search is keyword driven. So here's just an example. Here's everything you need to know about GameStop and the stock market right now. Okay, conversational. I like to think about it like, what would I say to a college roommate? A college roommate probably wants to stay informed, but I'm still pretty casual with them. So I would probably just turn to my roommate and say, here's everything you need to know about GameStop and the stock market right now. Okay, that's a little bit easy to digest. Now for a SEO headline that needs to be 60 characters or less, maybe I would just do stocks explain, what's going on with GameStop. Short, to the point. Questions are really helpful. When you're searching something, you might search, what is GameStop? What's going on with GameStop? That's kind of something that you might actually want to search in a Google search engine. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. If I were to search GameStop right now, you see some of my biased purple stuff that I have searched just to prepare for this. But you'll see GameStop stock, a few other things, or in another example is looking at Britney Spears. Excuse me, I put a period. Okay, again, ignore the purple ones because those are things that I've actually searched for. But we've got Britney Spears documentary FX because it's on FX. So those are keywords you really want to pay attention to have in your search engine optimization headline. Okay, so an exercise, and again, I thought I could see your faces, so sorry about this, but I would encourage you to open a tab. We're going to practice using Google search trends to check related search terms. And this is what I mean when I say when in doubt, use the search bar. So when in doubt, put a keyword in here and see what comes up. So let's go to our exercise. So here's these are just 2 more examples. We recently had the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is this really high competitive event. You're going to have a lot of people competing for stories to appear in search results. So an example of a conversational main headline: why you won't see any special guests at the weekend Super Bowl halftime show. I think that is a little bit nice curiosity gap. I didn't think about that. I want to see, why is that? SEO headline, the target keyword, Super Bowl 2021. Why the weekend will perform halftime alone. You don't have to start with a colon, but sometimes it's a nice way to get everything in there. And then just the Free Britney example again, where you can see there's no colon. Okay, so here's where we're going to practice together. I want you to take a close look at this and try to practice making a more conversational main headline and an SEO headline. Now, I won't throw you in the deep end. I'm going to show you a really cool trick. So again, I'm sorry I can't see you guys, but okay, so for Google search trends, let's take a look at which example do we want to look at. Let's just look at GameStop. Okay, so you're going to Google search trends. Okay, I just searched Google search trends. I'm going to click on this. Take a minute if you guys need some time. Welcome to the world of Google search trends. This is really fascinating stuff. It makes it easy. It's not a guessing game. You don't have to guess what readers or consumers want. You can see it firsthand. Tap these 3 bars. You're going to check trending searches. Okay, here we are. We've got daily search trends, real-time search trends. We can talk about that in a minute, but I'm just going to search GameStop. Okay. Now this shows me search results in the past 12 months. Obviously, we can see how it spiked January 24. 12 months doesn't really help me. I'm going to look at it for the past week. So I can still see that it spiked. There's relatively steady traffic. I'm going to scroll down and you can see rising related queries or top related queries. I'm going to search top. Okay, this is awesome. Now I literally have Google telling me in the past week, what are people searching related to GameStop? I can see GameStop stock is #1. So I'm going to definitely want that in my search headline. GameStop price. I probably don't need to put GameStop near me in my search headline because it's probably not related to my story. Here is just a few other ones. Looks like just people are searching it with Tesla stock. Again, you want to make sure it's still relevant to your story. You're not going to just put Tesla in there if it has nothing to do with the story. And sometimes I glance at rising queries, what's kind of standing out. Okay, so back to our example. I would like to have you guys take a minute to try to make a conversational headline out of, let's just say one of these. You can pick, and a search-friendly headline. And if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. Okay, I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes. If you need more time. Hey, Grant, could I ask you, do I need to stop my share to check the chat? Hey, Grant, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What's up?
So if I want someone to share their suggested main headline or SEO headline, would I check the Q&A?
You can check the chat or the Q&A.
Okay. So
Both
we're
are
waiting on a
enabled
brave
for
soul.
everybody. Yeah.
What was that?
Both are enabled for everybody.
Okay, cool. Come on, guys. Oh, can you please change your name to your first and last? Oh, sorry. I shouldn't say that out loud. Okay. Ooh, we got a headline. Thanks, Daisy. Okay. I'm guessing this is your SEO headline. COVID-19 vaccine, new variants, and a shift in business plans. Cool. Variant is definitely a good keyword. And I love that you got COVID-19 vaccine in there. Okay, how about one more share from someone and we'll move on. So as you're working on this, I'll just mention that, I try to explain to some of my colleagues that why this work matters is you could have the best report in the world, right? You could have spent hours on this story. But unfortunately, if you don't have a strong search headline, sometimes it can get really buried on Google and no one finds it, right? And at the end of the day, we want people to find our journalism. Okay, we got one more in the chat. New Supreme Court ruling lifts closing of churches. Very cool. That's awesome. Nice and short. We got Supreme Court in there. We got churches. Sometimes I've noticed with COVID stories, the word reopening is a big keyword. And in fact, why don't we just do one more fun check while we're here? Let's check what are the latest searches of COVID-19. I don't know if you guys tried this when you were doing your practices, but let's take a look. So in the past 7 days for COVID-19, I can check those top queries. Vaccines in there, great. So I think Daisy, I think your SEO headline had a vaccine, if I remember correctly. You did, cool. And you can see cases is up there. Wow, you definitely learned people are still searching for some interesting things. I'm surprised in the past week someone's still searching what is COVID-19. We got vaccination, we've got testing or test, symptoms, California. Unfortunately, people are searching deaths. And then I can also check the rising ones. Looks like people, so here's a great example of, see you have this rising search query that says, how long does it take for the side effects? I'm guessing that the full thing is for the vaccine to show up. This is a great example of when in the newsroom pitch meeting, I might tell the group, hey, I noticed that a rising related query for COVID-19 this week is more information about side effects. This is a great way for me to sound smart and pitch a really good story idea that clearly there's a search audience for. And then looks like people are asking questions about, do I need to get COVID-19 before traveling? I might make this pitch to our travel team to write this story. Okay, got a little more about side effects. Maybe some people, it looks like people are looking for ways to get access near them. So if I'm a local newsroom, I might make sure that we have a story about information to get a vaccine near you, especially for the 65 plus crowd. We call these kind of user guides. So that's really helpful. Okay, let's see if there's anything more in the chat and then we'll keep moving on. Okay, we've got California churches reopening after Supreme Court lifts bans. Nice job getting reopening in there. That's great. Okay. So I just wanted to mention some guiding points to hopefully have some clear takeaways. Make sure you are listening to the data and asking yourself, what's the best way to keep readers and viewers coming back, right? So again, it's in the example of a local newsroom, those questions around COVID and making sure they're user friendly, like how can I get my vaccine, information about the order or a guide for maybe 65 plus, how to help an older relative get a vaccine if they don't have access to a computer, all those things that you can check from sometimes things like Google's related queries can really help for you to make sure you have a loyal audience coming back. Be platform specific. As you can just see from our quick examples of a main headline on the story versus the search headline, those are already platform specific headlines. The way that you contextualize a story or write a headline or a share line for Facebook is going to be a little different than how you would in an email alert, which is a little bit more robotic. And again, if any of you have outstanding questions about some of this stuff, we can always go more into the weeds in a Q&A. Be as conversational as possible. Even a search headline, you don't want to go full robot. You still want it to be like if someone is searching for something in Google, I want to make sure I'm actually clicking something where I know what I'm getting. And remember your goal. That's the key, right? Like if my goal is I want to make sure I'm serving the SoCal audience, I'm going to pay a lot more attention to the strongest data from readers of that location. And I'm going to really think critically about how can I keep delivering journalism that targets them. Okay. And let me know if you have any questions. Even though I was mentioning earlier that I call my fun side hustle perks the reporting parts that I do kind of on the side of my job, I've also had a ton of fun doing audience strategy in a social media and audience role. That's how I got to the Oscars. And I also led our audience and digital strategy for the Toronto Film Festival and helped book over 60 film casts, including Jennifer Lopez, Meryl Streep, and Joaquin Phoenix. So lots of fun there. And yeah, that was really cool. So please connect. I'd love to get to know you guys, and definitely hoping to open it up to questions now, to ask you anything else you want to know and get to know you guys.
Yeah. Thank you, Christina. At this point, folks, you can use the Q&A. You can raise your hand and we will open your mic for you, or you can put your questions in the chat. But to get us started, Christina, I know you've covered many award shows. With the Golden Globes right around the corner, can you maybe talk how your position would prep for that?
That's a great question. I like to think about so by leading audience strategy for the entertainment section, it's kind of like, I kind of think of it like I'm the project manager in a sense for some of these big coverage nights. So what I've done to prepare for all of these big award shows, and the reason why I focus on these shows is they're high competition nights. So many outlets trying to have the top story on Google search or have a story that really takes off on Twitter. So I look back at the data. The first thing I do is the past few award shows, and I pay attention to, for example, the Golden Globes. What were our best stories in 2018? What stories did not connect in 2018? I look at that for 2019, 2020, and now in 2021. So that's the first thing I do is I just focus on and I pay attention to what can I learn from the stories that really connected. What seemed like the best search stories? What seemed like the best stories that went crazy on Twitter? The types of stories that really were shared on Facebook. For example, I always notice that historic firsts get shared really widely on Facebook. Um, Facebook seems to be the kind of platform where people really just want to share it with a friend. So if they see that someone broke through or made history, that's just really shareable for someone to want to pass along to someone. For Twitter, if you haven't already noticed, there's a lot of trolls on Twitter. So the Twitter audience loves the controversy. So if we have any story that is going to be a little bit controversial, for example, last year for the Golden Globe nominations, all female directors were shut out again. That's going to be a huge story in particular for Twitter, because people love to hate on Twitter. And for search, if there's a big speech, I normally always advocate for us to do a story like read so-and-so's speech. Because sometimes even if someone's watching, they didn't catch the whole thing and they want to look back. Or if someone didn't catch the speech and they're not watching, but they just saw something flash on their social media and they want to read it for themselves, that's a great search story. So that's the first thing I do is I look back at the past few years and I'm telling the editor of my section, I'm telling the film editor, the TV editor, Golden Globes happens to be film and TV, and I'll tell my section editor of entertainment and arts. I'll normally lead a meeting where I present things that I think we should focus on. And then after the Golden Globes, I always lead a debrief. So I have us come together and talk about what do we think worked well, what didn't work well, what can we learn from our data this year, and how can we be better prepared for the next big show.
We have a question from Maria. She wants to know what inspired you to start journalism?
Oh, well, that's a fun question. Let me think back to my 14-year-old self. I have always felt like I'm an animated person. I always have loved storytelling. And I feel like journalism is just a really fun mix for me. I also am a total nerd, and I love the idea of educating people, informing people. One reason I love journalism and loved it from an early age is I like how every day is different. And as a journalist, you get to be a specialist in so many different things, right? Like, especially what's fun about being at the LA Times is even though I'm focused on the entertainment team, it's all hands on deck for Inauguration Day. It's all hands on deck when Trump got coronavirus. And it's kind of cool to tap into different things, and I get to stay in the know about a lot of different topics. So I guess at the end of the day, I love to learn. And as a journalist, you're just always learning. And at the end of the day, I love storytelling. You know, when I've had some people ask me, what are the stories that have meant the most to you? And I always think of when a reader emails me and tells me personally about how much they appreciated a story I did. I'm passionate about tutoring for children experiencing homelessness, and oftentimes they are in the foster care system and are waiting to be placed in a forever home. And so one time I did this story about an HBO documentary called Foster, and I interviewed a woman who has taken in over 1,000 kids to foster them. And I just got this really thoughtful email of someone telling them how much it touched them and how much they appreciate that I'm paying attention to the foster community. So those are the moments where it just feels like it's all really worth it. So yeah, I would say storytelling and the opportunity to always be learning.
That's great. Um, yeah, if anybody has any more questions, again, feel free to raise your hand. You can put them in the Q&A. We can open your mic. Please let us know. I'll keep it going a little bit. Christina, so you started at 14, then you were at high school, and talk about the different stages and what you learned from your time at STN to your time at SC to your time at the Los Angeles Times.
Wow, the first thought that I think of is that you don't really know it until you're in a working role, like professionally. I feel like school prepares you, but it's definitely different in the workspace. And I think sometimes just classes don't show you the nuance of journalism. And that's what I hope that this session kind of helps inform you guys about, because there are so many jobs in newsrooms. I feel like in college, or when you're applying to college, or even at the high school level, maybe it's like, okay, I'm a reporter, I'm an editor, I'm a writer, or I'm a producer. But there are copy editors, there are photo teams, there are video teams, there are audio teams. We have a whole audio team just dedicated to making podcasts, which is fascinating stuff. Um, and we have design teams. So it's almost like it touches all these different nuances. We have business sides of the newsroom that work with sales. So yeah, I think that the biggest thing I learned is that there's just so many different types of roles. And especially as a young journalist, it's really hard. I tell this when I talk to some young journalists, that I really hope you guys keep an open mind. It's hard to graduate from college and to get that staff reporter job. And for me, it was tough. It was tough. I just kind of took a foot in the door opportunity. And along the way, I learned that I really liked the work. I liked the flexibility it gave my life. It's kind of hit me that I don't know if I want a job where someone tells me every day what to write or what to report. I kind of realized that I like it a little bit more when I can pitch what I want to do. And that way I'm already that much more passionate about it. And I don't even care about the extra hours because I'm having a blast. Like when I do some red carpet reporting on the side, I'll get no sleep. I'll come home at 11 p.m. and I'll wake up at 4 in the morning and write my story so I can make sure that I have it submitted by 8 a.m. And I don't even care because I just had a blast. And I actually like this kind of Kobe Bryant had this thought of, what's your 4 a.m.? Like, what do you care so much about that it's worth it to you to be up at 4 a.m.? And so for me, literally, it's when I get the privilege of doing something that I'm passionate about. So for me, I like the flexibility. That was a winded answer. And I think we have another Q&A question.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody is asking, what are some difficulties you've had to deal with in a journalism workspace?
Oh boy. How much time do we have? No, I'm kidding. Gosh. That's tough. I would say it's I'll start off by saying that in my role, it's an interesting role because I have to I have part of my role is educating people, and sometimes I have to kind of, it's not always fun to tell someone that you'd recommend a different headline. That's not always fun. But that's my job. And it's not always fun to remind people what our digital best practices are. So that's kind of a little bit part of the job I don't love, is but it is my job. I have to look out for our digital best practices and everything. So that's kind of something I don't super love, is just sometimes I worry that I'm kind of I don't know. It's not always super fun to have to tell people how to make, like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm bugging people, but that is the job, is to guide our strategy and to kind of be on top of our quality control of our digital and audience best practices. And when I started in this role, it was a little bit tricky, but now that I've been doing it longer, I think people are used to it now, that and they understand that that's just what the job is, and they all know that we're on the same team and we're all just trying to make our journalism better. And I actually had one example, just working with an incredible journalist, and just kind of wanted to educate them about how if I could fix their search headline, I think it would appear higher in Google's results. And so sure enough, I showed them how and why I was changing their search headline, and boom, top story. And we could all watch on our chart beat. It was the #1 story in the newsroom because we changed the search headline. So it's basically an opportunity to educate. And so having some nice moments like that has made it feel a little more worth it.
That's great. We got just enough time for one more question, if anybody has one for Christina. Looks like you're getting some live from 205 love.
Hi, live from 205. Thanks for everything.
There any last
Anything
final
else?
questions?
No one wants to hear what it was like meeting Brad Pitt. That's fine.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for this awesome opportunity to talk. And I hope that I shed some light about a kind of unique position in journalism. And again, I could maybe just quickly share this slide again. If you want to stay connected, I'd love to meet you guys and answer any specific questions, or if you want to talk more about breaking into the industry. I'm all ears. I love opportunities to mentor young journalists. And so, yeah, please don't be shy.
Well, thank you again, Christina. We appreciate your time and your expertise for our students at STN.
Thank you.